Another exciting week on Sprite Fright. Every week that goes by, I get more and more excited about what we're creating, and it's after all this time that we've been working on this, it still keeps getting funner, and so it's great to see that Ritual is, I think, 99% done. It is very close in animation. And then everybody else is animating on Grove. And it's crazy to think about, because we've been working on this for a while, that we are really nearing the end of a number of shots we have to animate. I'm being very positive about that. And then it's very cool to be able to see that fanny pack, boss fight, parade, layout. I think we can pretty safely say it's also 99% done. And really the last layout section we got to go through is escape, which is amazing. And then we're also going to be able to see all the fun intro art, render, lighting that's happening. It's looking beautiful. And then other sections that we're going to see, props, animals, all this great stuff. And then, which is really fun, is there is an updated score by Ben that you're going to hear in here. And it's so great to finally see the music that we've had for so long is temp music being replaced. And it is awesome. I couldn't be more happy. So you're in for a treat to be able to see all the fun stuff going on this week. All right, Hjalti.
So we're doing kind of a double thing, I guess. So it's from last week and this week, and I'll just kind of condense everything. So essentially last week, I wanted to start the layout for the boss fight, only to realize that Fanny Pack, Boss, and Escape had never actually gone through final dialogue pass. So I dove into that, and it was quite tricky, but I managed to do it, and I managed to get it done by the end of the week. And then this week was all about the boss fight, doing the actual layout, which I have managed to pull off all the way through, except for the fact that I did not have time to put in her hand that fanny pack that she's holding. So just imagine that I put a fanny pack in one of her hands. That's about it. I'm just gonna play this. I think one of these things is the thing I wanted to show you guys. I'm just gonna guess it's this. I thought this would have audio. I guess it doesn't have audio. And I guess this is not the greatest time to realize that. So imagine that this has final dialogues and like some really top-notch sound effects, and really, the edit is so tight. That scream that you should be hearing right now, that squeaky sound of him on the ground. So it's great stuff, great stuff. That bird should chirp also, just so you know. It's fine. So, close enough. And then all of that, I did the dialogue for this. Just imagine that she's like breathing. There's an Indiana Jones whip, all these things. I'm just skipping through. And then he says his infamous line, burn the bodies, have some peppermint. This is spoilery. And that's it. And then the parade, and everybody's happy. And that was my 2 weeks. Thank you very much.
I'm going to show my stuff, and also Julian, who is not here, and he has tons of stuff. So what I focused on this week was just getting back into the lighting for the beginning and the Sprite Village scene, which are very important because they're kind of the hallmark. They're the most recognizable shots for the daytime. They inform the entire daytime lighting scenario in the beginning of the film. So there's quite some pressure on it. So I probably should show Julian stuff before, because he did the whole forest and everything. So this is going to be a bit confusing, but I did the lighting for the beginning, and for the first shot and the second shot, I adjusted them slightly. And the tricky part here was to make the interior of the forest, the inside of the forest, connect to the outside of the forest, which still is a little bit tricky. But yeah, there's this transition between the shots, which what Julian actually worked on, and the environment. I'm going to show this stuff later, but it really has to feel like we're in the same environment. We're progressing from outside to inside. So this was quite tricky. There were a few iterations of that. In the beginning, it looked very cold, and then I warmed it up slightly. And also the question was, how does that feeling transition into the inside of the forest? So for one experiment, for example, I did a test to see what happens if I make the light beams inside the forest more cold, because actually the color script had that. It had cold sunbeams inside the forest, which would kind of, yeah, I wanted to see if that would actually make the whole transition work better. But then the tricky part of it is that also muddies up the entire image a little bit, because here everything looks warm and everything kind of connects. And if this blue stuff really helps, separating the characters from the background, but also it makes the image very busy. So eventually we opted for making it warm entirely. So that's why also this stuff here turned out a little bit warmer in the end, like you can see it here. And then I progressed towards lighting some of the shots with Elder Sprite, because Simon he's going to show the shading of Elder Sprite. So we wanted to see how he actually looks like in the scene. So I went into Village, I lit some shots here. And for example, this is the reveal of Elder Sprite. You can see he still has his old dots on. The tricky part is always to find the right angle of light for his face, because he has this mushroom cap, and that always gives you this line straight through his eyes. So you have to really shove the sunlight into the right angle. So that was quite tricky. And this was another, like with the final dots for Elder Sprite, and another lighting shader tweak that was done by Simon. Then I continued with the kids, all the angles of the kids. And this is an example of like a rough lighting that I copied over from another shot. You can see it's very busy. You have a hard time seeing what you have to look at, because it's everything kind of has this noise over it, like it's all very busy. So usually what I do from there is tweak the light angle, add some lights that kind of bring your focus into the main subject, mask off some areas in the background, and after some iterations, darkening all the stuff, making sure that it's mostly Ellie we're reading, Rex, Victoria, and then if I move this over here, Phil, he also just got a little bit darker here. So it's just about making it more streamlined and making sure that everything here reads. So this was the first iteration of this shot. I'm not going to talk a lot more. I'll just show you the sequence. And yeah, this shot, I worked on most of the lighting for this. I updated the lighting of these shots. We have the grease pencil lines converted to mesh. These are all updated. For some reasons, the sprite dots here don't show up. But then most of the shots with Elder Sprite should also be here. It's a bit boring to see without. Here we go. Yeah. And we really want to make him as, oh, bloody shoe. We really want to make him as appealing and as fluffy and lovable as possible. So that was kind of the idea behind these shots. So more of that next week, hopefully. So that's it for me. thanks. I'll just transition into Julian's stuff if that's okay. So Julian has been working on the beginning on the forest, that the part that I actually showed you. So he made all this environment last week and the week before, I think. I'm just totally showing stuff that I have no idea what happens. Yeah, this is the ending forest set. Lighting is temporary. And yeah. So this is the forest set. And mainly he was working on the disfigured sprites for the parade scene. This is just a compilation of everything, of all the different sprites. This was his last version of it. Keep in mind that the leg is going to come back here. This was a little request from Matthew. But yeah, then we have some turntables here. I love this guy. This little happy friend. This I actually love, but it was too extreme. But he is so creepy.
It's not a.
And this guy has his arm cut off. So yeah, Julian did all the sculpting of this and then the painting in of the melting effect. This is Nacho guy. And this one. And this one. Okay, I'm probably forgetting all the other great stuff that Julian has done, but I'll just leave it here.
I want to shout out Marti, because this is his last week. Marti, yeah, you will be showing some of your work later, but I want to say thank you for the work you put into this. And yeah, you are really your spirit and excitement of this for this project was great to experience and to bring into the team. And yeah, I also talked with you briefly before, and you were already saying like had some opportunities at other studios. So I'm great to hear that you're continuing your path in animation. So big thanks for Marti. All right. So in animation, as Matthew mentioned, like Ritual is pretty much done, and I'll be showing some of my work here, which is not this shot. I'm not gonna give credit to myself on that one. But this week, I did a lot of what we call CVBs, which are could be better. And we did calculate in the planning 2 weeks in the schedule where animators were able to pick this up. Now that we are in some holidays, I was able to pick some of that work up, and luckily we didn't have too much. But that was the majority of my work this week. Also, the shots that I've been working on were partly already blocked out in pre-production to test out the characters, but already were yeah, established throughout pre-production. So this is the first shot right here. Yeah, there is not a lot of progression in terms of, I can show you a version here. Let me play it. This actually, oh, let me loop that. So this shot, wait, did I not loop it? Here we go. This shot is all about showing off the growth and not putting too much attention to either the bird, the butterflies, or the spider. And one note I got for this shot, the spider has a very spidery way of walking, like starting stopping. But that was kind of yeah, extra attention grab to the shot, where the shot needs to be the whole thing. So I adjusted the spider here, which is this shot right here, where the spider, and there's even sound. Here we go. So the spider slowly moves up there, and little butterflies in there, and the bird. So then the next shot is actually pretty much the same angle, but now our characters are in there destroying the place, and this shot already it's looking pretty well. It has been set up in pre-production and kind of polished and pushed here and there to really finish it for the movie. Some little things that I really liked from the pre-production is that Victoria really has a crush on Rex, and she's really at the end like looking at Rex, do you see me? There was something fun to add in there. And then Jay is really putting all of his heart into breaking that branch. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff were in there, and it was a fun shot to animate. Yeah, it's like a campfire. You really get somehow relaxed or disturbed, I don't know. So next shots, this was from before. I think this might be something that I was already working on before my holidays, but just to show you this shot right here. And another shot that I was working on was this one, and also had prepared in pre-production, but really pushed some of the burp bulging of his cheeks there, and also put in little grease pencil dots that are like drops coming out of his mouth there. Then next up, I did some revisions on these two shots. These shots Marti worked on, so the credits go to him. I just had to do some re-polishing on it, which is the Sprite spraying the oil onto Phil here, and that will be added by either effects or later on. Yeah. And then obviously, yeah, the first dead person falling in here. Yeah, that was my week.
The last week or the week before I went to holidays, I showed this shot from sequence, village sequence, and it was like a rough blocking or something. Yeah, we have like a review, and I have to change a few things. After that, I did this version. We can see Jay because it's not. It wasn't animated for the moment, but here Phil is chewing with his mouth open, and Victoria and Rex are like with a evil looking each other, and we changed that. The last pass, which I did today, is this, where Victoria is like more in love with Rex, and they see each other like more in love. And also Phil is like chewing with the mouth closed, and now I have a Jay animated and Ellie, which is detrás. I don't know how to say in English. But yes, I still have to change the beginning of the animation of Rex because there are still a few notes about the acting. I think that's all. And a few details that I have to change, but it's almost there, the shot. And that would be my week.
Hello. So for this week, I worked on my first shot, A Grove with Ellie, where she sees her friends destroying a campground, and she's just like, "You guys, what are you doing? You're supposed to be messing this stuff up. You're supposed to be studying nature, So here's my very first pass right here. So this, I only had like 1 or 2 poses in here, and I pushed blind just to get the idea across. But I have note that she was opening up, so I had toned it down to where she is more everything's more closer into her body, so it reads better. And she's like, supposed to be studying nature, not destroying it. And this is my final version. I don't know if you guys can hear this or not, but yeah. So yeah, this is my week.
This week I've been working on this shot. This was my last shot on Sprite Fright production. And I've been doing just a few retouches about some feedback. And my last version is this one. And then, like Rick said, he take it and he did last version. And the shot is now done. And this weekend, I've been doing a video for Video Blog. You will be able to see very soon, I think. And that was my week.
This couple weeks, I think, because I think I skipped the last one. Let's see what I did. Let's start with files and then folders. I rigged a tree. Fantastic. Another one. This was actually already rigged, but Hjalti keeps poking me to fix things. So I do. I broke the fanny pack, and then I burned my entire Monday not fixing it, and then giving up, and then making a separate version with the old Ellie that's actually compatible with this anim file. So that was a nightmare, but good enough. I rigged an egg yolk. So yeah, that's what I'm getting paid for. So the reason I broke the fanny pack in the first place is because Hjalti is working on, or was working on at the time, on the sequence where Ellie was losing her fanny pack, or it's getting unstrapped from her onto her legs. She is crawling with it on the floor. Then she eventually will have to get up and throw it across a wood beam. What is it called? A branch. That's what it's called, a branch. So he asked for a few extra bones, and of course they broke everything. So then I had to make sure that those extra bones that we've added, which were the ones that I was selecting here, those didn't exist before. For backwards compatibility reasons, those had to stay between the pre-existing bones, which is fine. But for those shots, it would be nice if they didn't do that, because it's annoying for the animator. So I added a secret toggle on the fanny pack root bone, which is where? Nowhere. Oh God, okay. Seeking on this video player is a nightmare. But so you can now switch between the backwards compatibility behavior and the behavior that you would use for that specific shot. So that's a thing now. And then what else? Let's see. I made a couple of videos for the CloudRig tutorial videos thingies, not tutorial, documentation video. One about the FK chain rig type, and one about how to parent things to other things. There really is no sound on these things. Interesting. Or I guess on whatever. And then besides that, there was this one sprite frame that Simon pointed out to me, where this is fine, and then this is not fine because the right eye has this gap things going on at the top and bottom, and the eye highlight is broken. So we were wondering if that's animator's fault or my fault, and I think the conclusion currently is both. So I did what I could. Also, lighting totally changed, ignore that. So the eye highlights was totally my fault, and the upper eyelid was totally my fault. For the lower eyelid, I'm gonna need some help from Monica, and I just shot a message into your inbox just before the weekly. And then patches. I don't think I'm gonna open these. Okay, you know what? This one, because it's cool. No, it's not cool at all, but shout out to Sergey and Sebastian for helping me with another C patch. It's
pointless. No one cares. I mean, it's not pointless. I like it, but it's a utility function exposing to Python. Whatever. Thanks, Sergey and Sebastian. And besides all of that crap, random cloud rig improvements, especially from stuff that I run into while I'm making the videos, where I'm like explaining something in the video and I'm like, wait, why is it that way? That's stupid. And then I go and fix it. So yeah, I think that's my couple of weeks.
I've been working on some shots. This was the other day I was already working on this one, so I finished it up, adding a lot of sprites and finish him up. So yeah, and he's saying things and they jump. After this one, that it was almost finished the other day, I did this shot. This one, I started to put in like I started on J because it was the one that he was having like the most animation, and that's the first pass on him. So it was like a bit of a challenge, try to move this big boombox. So yeah, we have to we did like some retouches, but kind of was working already. After that, I started to work on Ellie. I made like a small blocking on her. Later it changed a bit, but mostly it was already done also. And later I jump on the other two there. So I made them some animation that they were like coming from down, and they were still busy untying the ropes. And then this is the last version with all the stuff and all animated. I animate the chain, I animate the hair, I animate the earrings, I animate the rope that you don't see, but it's animated. Everything is animated, and it's final and approved. And I started on Groove. So this is my first shot on Groove. She say like, wow. And Rex is coming and is pushing her. So this is the first pass, and this is the last pass because there's not much in this shot. So he's just pumping on her, and she's like going a bit to the front, and the other two guys, they're working in the back, and that's it.
So the last 2 weeks, one thing I did is I merged all the tools I wrote so far here, basically, in the whole Blender Studio tools repository. Now we have one centralized place that encapsulates all our tools that are used in our pipeline, which is really cool. They are adding up to, I think, like over 800 commits now with the shot builder together. And after the production, I'm going to also merge Simon's tools, which is really nice. So we have like one organized place where everything is. Everything has a nice little README and explains how to set it up and install. And yeah, so that's pretty cool. And the next thing, and this like included a whole lot of refactoring as well. For example, one big thing was to adjust the comments to match the Blender code style. And because there were so many comments that were wrong, I actually wrote a Python script that does that for me. So here I fix comments in 66 files, and it goes through and yeah, does all the stuff it needs to do. So they match the Blender code style, and here you can see it adds like a point at the end, makes the first space capital, adds a space after the hashtag, and blah, blah. But hey, I mean, so all the comments are looking nice and pretty now. Then I wrote 2 articles for the cloud. The part 2 from the Kitsu add-on, which shows all the other tools that are in it, which will be probably published next week. And I also did an article on the contact sheet add-on, which will go public maybe 1 week later or so. Then I actually worked with a lot of help from Sebastian on a little extra exporter for subtitles in Blender, and it supports a new format called AS, which stands for Advanced something subtitles, Advanced Alpha Subtitles. And the reason behind this is currently we only do a very rudimentary subtitle export. And with this new format, we can do things like export the position of subtitles, export the color, export the opacity, export the font. And so this is like a very basic first version. And this is the file that will be exported then. And if you open a video player, you can see like very roughly sort of the subtitles match that the one we had in Blender, and it supports now like position and opacity and fonts, which is really cool. So I'm gonna maybe continue working on that. And another thing, which was a cool idea from Francesco, is I looked into a thing called application templates that the Blender supports, which is basically a way to set up Blender in a very configured way to do one specific task. And the idea was to make an application template for a video player. And based on the Blender 101 project, I made an application template for a video player. And so you see all the stuff is hidden in the UI. You don't have any buttons or headers or whatever. And the only thing you have is a sequence editor and a file browser. And on top of that, it has some additional functionality that if you click a file, it immediately goes there and plays it back.
Oh my God.
And it works with images, with videos, and you can do all the regular stuff you can do in Blender with, you know, resizing your image, I don't know, scrubbing the timeline, whatever. And it's just an application template and a Python add-on, yeah, which is really nice. So I'm gonna continue on that. Thanks. Extra clap. Yeah. Yeah, this is just some mini stuff. We have a little progress bar when we approve the renders. Before we didn't see anything and Blender would freeze for 1 minute. So that's kind of nice. And then I set up the fanny pack sequence and the parade sequence for animation, which will be done next week. And then we have only 2 sequences left and then the movie's done. Yeah, that was my week.
So I've been working on Ritual mostly the last 2 weeks. I started on Grove today, but I'll show that next week. I mostly did final notes on 2 shot or on 1 shot and worked on a new shot 140. I'm gonna just play all part because all the shots are after each other. Oh, 1 second, sorry. So it's a lot of screaming, running around. Most notes were mainly on this shot where, let's see, version 12. It was like the Jay's running around frankly with his arms. Had to look a bit more smooth, so I changed the arcs a bit and made it look a bit nicer, and I put both Rex and Jay on 2s later on. So this was the earlier version. And later, like all the way at the end, they're on 2s and yeah, all the small notes are done, all the hair is flowing around. And then I worked on 140 where Elder Sprite starts talking to them and they're actually trying to escape last moment. Let's see what the first version. Oh, this was the first version. Same as Publico, because Publico had the shot before me. I worked on Jay first because he had the most action. Oh, and it's not playing anymore. 1 second. Okay. So he was running too fast, so I had to slow him down a little bit, which I did. Oh, there's audio. Switch it off. Then I did all the. 1 second. Whoop. Then I did all the other characters. Rex and Victoria had to be more, I call it scared, and they had to go away a bit quicker. So I speeded it up and gave them extra steps. And eventually I came to this. And that was by 2 weeks.
While Andy and Bo were gone, I still wanted to feed the farm a little bit. So I re-rendered a couple of the shots that needed re-rendering. part of that was the scratch sequence where we updated the shader of the light cone. So I did that kind of stuff. Then there was more fill shading to be addressed. So it's something I ignored or forgot about while I was doing the actual shading about Phil, but we remembered that he actually, or Matthew pointed out that he was supposed to be a sloppy eater and leave a bunch of residue on his t-shirt. So there were a couple of iterations, and I think this is the version we ended up with. So he has these Cheeto fingers and a bunch of grease and mustard ketchup leftovers on his shirt. So that's that. Then Matthew asked me to get an idea of how it looks like when Phil has the pine cone in his mouth, because there was still the decision to be made what direction it is in, and I just gave him 2 variations. This is the one we're going with. Yeah, so for that I just quickly slapped together some pine cone shading. Then there was a whole bunch of random prop shading to be done. So there was all of this stuff that's on the backpack. So the backpack itself was already shaded, but the straps and the closed sleeping bags and everything still needed to be shaded. So I did that. Then this thing, a dirt pile, an egg. Oh yeah, this was already adjusted with a little bit less of local contrast. Then the squirt and burn, a pickle glass, the Mr. Rose Valley salty dills, a broken pickle glass. I tried to actually have a little bit of a ripped off label effect, so it looks a little bit more realistic rather than just having a cut off label. A rope snail package of undefined source and material. Blueberries were already also adjusted a little bit. Sorry, Sprite berries, not blueberries. Those were the random props. Then a less random prop, the bloody shoe got a little bit more attention. So we decided on colors because before it was supposed to be white, but that would be a little bit too close to the actual characters' shoes, like the Jay and Rex. So it would be a little bit confusing maybe. And also there's a nice contrast with the kind of teal with the blood. So I did a shading pass on that. Dirty, bloody iterations, and I think this is the one we ended up with. Yeah. Oh yeah, the high top and a flag. Yeah, it's the type of shoe is called high top. That's what I got from Matthew. And then ladybug shading. There are ladybugs, so I did ladybug shading with dots. Yeah, that's the iteration. Not the biggest thing, but yeah, big cute eyes, and they work in the shots. Oh yeah, with the seed, so the dots are randomized. We can just change it around. Then butterfly shading. Okay, let's go here. That's the butterfly in all its glory. Had a little bit more of a beard before I reduced that. Then less glory, the burnt butterfly with a little bit like a grayish tone, everything singed wings. And then the less burnt butterfly when it's actually being repaired by the sprite, so that it doesn't look as sad. I just turned up the colors again a little bit in that one shot because it's supposed to be a happy shot. And then to see the animation between those, that's how it looks like. Nothing too fancy, just a little bit of a fade. And then we also have at least 2 more butterflies that are completely combusting in the flames of Phil's barbecue grill. So we need another version where they turn completely black. So that's this. It's just a separate parameter. So we have the burn parameter that I already showed. And then there's a charred parameter that's just nukes the butterfly out of existence. And then what else? Elder Sprite. Yes, Elder Sprite. Oh yeah, I made the first actual shading pass on Elder Sprite by just transferring mostly just transferring the shading that I had from the Sprite onto other Sprite. The beard was also already something we looked at, so there were also some more iterations on that. But yeah, so something that I specifically looked at was adding a little bit more emphasis on the mouth, because I made a render of Elder Sprite with his mouth closed and it kind of just disappears, which is not the greatest thing. So yeah, I think this is how it is right now. So we actually still see it when he closes his mouth, but it doesn't look too strange when it's open. And then, yeah, so the problem with the dots was that his mushroom head is a lot larger than for the average Sprite. So when I was painting it in, because for Elder Sprite I'm not using the randomness because it's just that one Elder Sprite. I just actually painted in the dots, but filling up the empty space with more dots just escalated a little bit, and he just became the master of all dots, which was not really the point. So I removed a bunch of those, just repainted it, and that's how it looks like right now from the different angles. So yeah, for Elder Sprite, it's just supposed to really work from all angles because he's that one character that's recognizable. And then for the beard, right, I already showed it a little bit, but here we wanted to push it a little bit further to make it a little bit more bright, but this was already kind of the extent of where that got us by abiding all the laws of legal shading. So I did a little bit of black magic that we won't talk about to make it a little bit brighter, which is probably going to look nice and shouldn't explode, but we'll see about that. That's how it looks like at night without a hat, but just thought I'd show that. And also for the beard, that's something I already wanted to do a while ago when I actually set up the general geometry node setup for the beard or general body fur, which is the current setup was still allowing for a lot of random, or yeah, not quite random, but flipping of the hair. So if you look closely here, you can see how it's, when he bends his knees, bends around, it kind of rotates. Like the particles aren't actually locked in their rotation, they just jump around, which is not supposed to be the case. So to fix that, I just took the transformation of a bone that was conveniently already on his head and then just locked the particle orientation to that. So this is how it looked before, without the nodes, and then with the new nodes, it's fixed in place. Yes, I think that's Elder Sprite, probably. Then, oh yeah, you've seen this a couple of times already, but there's this intro shot. And Francesco thought it would be nice if maybe the sleeves would also be moving a little bit. So I tried setting up a system to actually make them move. It's a little bit difficult to, okay, this is maybe not the greatest showcase because it's very subtle, but it's difficult to actually have them like globally move with like waves of wind. That doesn't really work because I quickly run into my 64 gigabytes of RAM limit with all these leaves that are hanging around, like hundreds of millions. So we have to go with a little bit more cheap of a solution. And for that, I currently, for the most recent version, I only have a OpenGL renderer, but that's how it looks like. So we can see, can I? So there's a little bit of movement going on. We'll see that in the render next week, but this is where we are right now. And even the branches are moving a little bit, which is nice. And yeah, just to show, that's the preview I get, because running all of those trees at 20 FPS is not really the thing. So I just adjust it on one single tree and then see it, look at it in the render, and that's how it looks like on one tree. And is that my week? It is my week. That's my.
So, well, thanks a lot for sharing everything. I would like to share something myself. So let's see if I can do this. And this is a tool that we often use here at the studio to have an overview of how far we are with the film. And I just, I think I will try to more regularly show this because we are really getting close to a final state for many things. So these are all the shots of the movie. This is like a timeline that shows every shot. You can actually play the film and watch it here. And if we look at what the layout department is doing, and we see in green, those are the shots that have layout done, and in blue, these are shots that are work in progress. You can see that the layout department is doing an excellent job, and it's very close to getting things done. So very exciting. Then we have the animation department, which is also doing pretty well. And to give you a better sense, we can actually sort things like this. This is like these are the shots grouped by the sequence they belong to. So you can actually see that the big chunk of the film here in the middle is done. Those are the shots that you've been seeing for the past 3-4 months. And as a few shots here and there are getting wrapped up, actually it's more than this because this system is a little bit out of date, a few days behind what happened actually. A lot of growth, that's going to be the main focus, as Matthew said at the beginning. And then we have a big part of the movie that is actually done, and we have the last couple of sequences. So we leave the end for the end, and it's going to be really nice to see. And the lighting department is closing in as well. Of course, needs animation to be done first, but you can see that it's also in a very nice and healthy place, and it's going super well. So that's one way that we use to look together at how the film is going, where the different tasks are, and I think it's looking really good. And we have a plan to wrap up animation at the end of September, and so far it looks like things are on track, and I'm not too afraid to say it because the animation team is doing fantastic. So I fully trust that this is actually going to happen. So I'm very happy, and I want to give a really congratulations for the hard work that everybody's doing. So thanks a lot to everyone. And, once again, thanks, Marti, for joining us for this production. And I wish you all a good weekend, and see you soon, and see you again next week. Bye. See you. Thank you.